Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Anything But Hold'em. Here this afternoon doing some fixed limit stud high. This is a weekly round two. This is the free roll that you get a ticket to enter when you place in one of the astronomer free rolls that I played a fair bit at the beginning of the stream. Haven't played one much before. Pretty sure this is the first time that I've played a straight stud high game here on Anything But Hold'em. I've certainly I've played stud high as part of the horse and 8 game and triple stud rotations that I've played on here. But I'm pretty sure this is the first time I've ever sat down to play a game of all stud high. And there's a reason for that. Stud high is my worst stud variant, I have to say. I think in general, I'm better at stud games than any of the other formats. So stud high being my worst version of stud means I'm probably better at it than I might be at some of the other games that I maybe consider better in that variant, if that makes sense. But it's still not one that I typically choose to put money down and play in a straight stud high tournament. If I'm going to play stud high, I'll play it in triple stud. Usually, which I quite enjoy. That said, I do want to play every game that I can that's not Hold'em on this stream. So that means that at some point I have to play stud high as well, whether I'm good at it or not. And so we're here playing a stud high today. This is, I think, an excellent way for me to get in and play. It's a nice way to showcase it on the stream as well. At any point during this time, I could have jumped in to one of the astronomer free rolls, the Copernicus, I think it is, stud astronomer free roll, and played that. But there's issues with streaming those astronomer free rolls. They're really donkey at the beginning, and it doesn't really make for an opportunity to talk about good play style and things like that, because these people are making moves that just have no logic to them whatsoever in those astronomers. Add to that the fact that you'll often end up on tables where everybody else is sitting out and you're literally just taking all the money from people who are sitting out. Doesn't tend to make for great streams in some cases until you're at a point where you're deep in one of those, and in those cases I'll put them up on stream sometimes. But certainly from the beginning, it's hard to count on whether one of those astronomers is going to make a good stream or not. These round twos, however, are always pretty solid competition in whatever game they happen to be playing. Stud, for this week, for example, stud specialists have been sitting around waiting for the Sunday that stud high comes up. That day is today, and so they've been just itching to get their astronomer ticket in to play this game here. So it's a tough competition. There's lots of stud specialists that come in and play this game. It's not huge money that we're playing for here, but it is a free roll, and there's $215 up top for first. So I mean, it's a pretty darn impressive free roll. Even the min cash, 788 places payout. So even the min cash is getting $1.10, which is not very bad for free roll. Free roll stuff. Now it's sort of a free roll. Of course, it's actually a ticket only, so it's not like it's a free roll that anybody can just go and enter. You have to have won an astronomer or placed in one of the astronomer free rolls in order to have a ticket to enter this at all. But other than that, I mean, it's perfectly free to enter the astronomers, and thereby perfectly free to get into this one. So it is still a free roll, just an invitation only, a free roll, I suppose you'd call it, or ticket only, a free roll. Right, so let's talk a little bit about the tournament itself. There was 6,879 people entered, which is pretty standard for these weekly round twos. Feels a little high, I think, today. But I think that's also, holiday weekend, just before Christmas. I think there's lots of reasons why it could be inflated a bit today. But it's a lot of fun. As I said, 788 people are paying out. $1.10 for the min cash, $2.15 up top for first place. At the moment, we are in level 2. It's antes of 2040, or stakes of 2040, I should say, with an ante of 4. So pretty low, pretty early days, pretty low end. This is not one that you can late reg in, though. There's only 10 minutes for late reg, so late reg is already closed, meaning we are, we are done for the day. It is one that if I go deep in, I expect to still be playing around 3, 4, 5 this afternoon. So another several hours if I go deep in this. But yeah, I mean, otherwise we'll see what happens. As I said, stud is not my best form of stud. I'm much better at Raz or Stud 8 than I am at straight Stud High. But we'll have fun with this and see how far we go. I do like the stud format. I think the reason that I like the stud format the most, well, and I'll just mention that this is pretty obviously a folding hand. I think no matter whether you know a lot about stud or not, there's really nothing to grab onto here. It's your sort of only thing is your 5-8 for a straight. Pairing your king, well, that's only going to get you so far. So probably not worth getting involved too much in. But the reason that I love the stud games, and I'll be perfectly honest about this, I think they're the easiest form of poker to learn and get good at. And the reason I think for that is because there's just crap loads of information about the other person's hand that you're playing against out there. So it makes it much easier to work out where you are in relation to the hands you're playing against. Now, the caveat, of course, to that is absolutely hugely true in Raz, somewhat true in high-low, and less true in stud-high, because the stud-high hands can be a lot more disguised than the Raz hands, for example. You look at Raz, and I look at your board, and you're showing King, Queen, Jack, 10. Well, there's a crapload of information about what you're potentially playing based just looking at your King, Queen, Jack, 10. I know that the best possible hand you can be playing in that scenario is a Jack 10 high, because you have to use 5 cards, so you have to use at least 2 of the ones that are showing on the board, and if 2 of the ones that are the 2 lowest on the board are Jack 10, therefore the best hand you can make is your 3 buried cards are lower than the Jack 10, and therefore your Jack 10 is the... So I am getting almost exact information about whether or not my hand is better than your hand based on the 4 cards that you get on the board often in Raz. In stud, obviously that is not nearly the same situation. I'm getting a lot of information, obviously, about what you're playing. But for example, if I'm looking at Tevion here, I'm getting information that he could be playing a club flush. I don't know that he's playing a club flush, but he certainly could be playing a club flush. He could be playing pair aces, could be playing 2 pair aces and kings, could have a set of either of these 2 that he's been working on. So I get information. There we go, pair kings, right? No flush. So I get information about the hands, but in stud, the information is less certain than it is in a game like Raz or Stud 8. And of course, Stud 8 is kind of that halfway in between, because you have less certain ability to read what your opponent is playing on the high hand, but you've got equally certain ability to read what your opponent is playing for his low hand, if they are. So for that reason, I actually find stud to be one of the simplest, the simplest form of poker as far as working out whether or not you're going to be the winner or the loser in the hand, and thereby also using that information that you're seeing on your board and the other person's board to sometimes make yourself look stronger than you actually are, and things like that. Bearing in mind, of course, that your opponent's going to be doing that to a certain extent as well with his up and down cards. So you need to watch that. But I just think that there's less guessing, less guesswork involved in the stud when I'm looking at 4 cards on your board, and 4 cards that you have to be playing two of because they're yours alone. It's a very different dynamic, and I find that it's a much I honestly think it's the simplest form of poker out there when you can see so much and everybody gets individual boards. Alrighty, pair of kings. We're definitely going to come in with that. We've got to bring in with the deuce. I don't mind putting in a lot of, I could actually bring in and try to induce to get extra raises, but I think that doing this is often enough going to get um, people to come in anyways. Clearly, Zank 1 could be playing a pair of aces, so I don't want to go too crazy on this. Probably just going to call behind here, see how things go from here. The 9 doesn't help me at all, really. I'm going to check into Zank 1 and see what... Alrighty, so we're still going to watch and see what Zank 1 is doing. I'm still on my pair of kings. I don't really think I can go anywhere with a pair of kings at this stage. Nobody else is really developing a hand that looks like it's ahead of kings, and the fact that we've got two aces showing means that it's less likely that either of these two are playing a pair. It doesn't mean that they're not, obviously, but it's less likely that either of these two are playing a pair of aces. In fact, they could both be playing a pair of aces because I don't see any other aces out. I don't have any in my hand. But that said, I still don't think that should scare me away from wanting to continue in this pot. And I'm certainly going to check through. I could bet here. I don't think I'm pushing people off given the action that's come up before. So betting I don't think was going to really accomplish much there other than bloat the pot more. At this point, I mean, I think it's likely that Zenk is playing a pair of aces. But I think that for the odds that I'm getting for the call at this point, for the information that I'm going to read on Zank, whether my read is correct or not, I think that the call is absolutely going to be worth it. Well, that's interesting. He hit actually, so we were ahead all the way along that road. That is instructive. That is instructive because what that tells me is if I bet on 5th or 6th Street, I probably end up taking that down. So I have to remember that when he's going hard early and then slacks off a little bit, it might be an indication of slightly weaker holdings. Steve-O, how's it going, man? Good to see you. Good to see you, buddy. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. So I don't know how this is going to go. It could be a short afternoon here on the stud high tables. Like I've said already today, stud high is not my best game, so I'm not necessarily holding out for a win or anything like that. I'm expecting that I could certainly cash in this, and I could certainly go through to the end. I mean, there's no reason why I couldn't, but it's not one of the games that I consider that I have a big edge in, like I might in some other games. If we were playing Raz, I would probably consider myself having a fairly decent edge. If we're playing Badugi, same deal. If we're playing stud high low, same deal. Even 08, I feel like I got a bit of an edge. Horse, I feel like I got a bit of an edge in. Triple stud, I would feel like I got a huge edge in most cases. But stud high, no, not really feeling an edge, I gotta say. Feeling pretty much just like everybody else. Yeah, it's certainly easier in high-low to get to the end of the day without anything at all, and have put a whole bunch of in. And end up with nothing than it is in a stud high game. In a stud high game, you got to know by 5th or 6th. Well, by 5th, you've got to know whether or not you're have a potential hand developing that could win the pot or not. And if you don't know by 5th, you're going to be losing a lot of stud tournaments because you've got to. For the record, off the stream, I am playing in PSO home games as well. A bit of a sweat today. I'm sitting in 4th overall in the Player of the Series point race right now over there with this event and 3 more events to go. I'm on the final table of this first event today now, and if I can win 2 events today and place in a 3rd, I have a very good chance of taking the first prize in the December series. So that would be pretty awesome if that happens. We're getting a nice heart draw developing here. Only one other heart is visible on the board. I'm gonna throw some money in the pot at this point, and with the way I was thinking with the lack of odds, I might actually be getting some folds out of that. But now that we've got a pair of 10s, I think that we're actually betting for value rather than trying to push people off the pot. Reasonably happy even to see calls, I think, from these guys. So we hit 2 pair. We didn't hit our hearts, but I'm still pretty happy to value this hand. I think the 10s and 5s are going to be good most of the time, except when somebody hits jacks and 6s on the river. But hey, I mean, it's going to happen, and you're just going to have to deal with that. I think that's a value bet because I think that somebody with aces, kings might easily consider calling me there, and I think that I could get a hand like Jackson 6s potentially to fold. I don't know, maybe not, but I mean it did show the 10s up, so I'm probably not getting anybody with Jackson anything to fold. Yeah, I'm probably not getting any better hands to fold with that bet. But I think I am getting value out of weaker hands, single pairs, big single pairs. I'm going to get weaker hand. I'm going to get value out of, I think, there. It's a tough call, tough spot. But I do think that I do think that the value is a better spot than trying to check call there, because check calling there is going to you don't have the possible fold equity, which I don't think is huge there, but I think in theory you want to always be taking advantage of that fold equity if you can. Checky. Just flop 2 pair on the, talking about the game you guys can't see, just flop 2 pair on that one. Steve-O's not in the hand, so it's cool, I can say that. I'm going to throw out a half pot bet, I think. In the money over in that one that we're playing there, so alrighty, Fisty is putting up a bit of a battle to me. I'm still going to keep half pot betting though with my 2 pair. It's top and bottom pair at the moment. Now it's second and bottom pair with a straight that just came in on the river, Queen King. I think I'm just going to check behind Fisty here. I could easily have value bet that, but I'm just going to check behind. Yeah, he was on a flush draw, so I wasn't getting any value out of that anyways. But sorry to talk about a hand that's not actually happening on the table that you're watching, but I suppose I really should have been playing this pair of sixes over here on the stud table. Any pair, you should probably be seeing a Getty pair I should probably be seeing some streets with, but not sure why I folded that one there. I was probably not paying attention. It happens from time to time when I'm looking at other tables or talking into the stream. Have to address that if I'm going to keep doing this, but typically I find that the streaming is actually better. I actually play better because I think the hands through more thoroughly when I am explaining them to all the people out there. Yeah, I'm not going to play that. I was almost playing that because I was thinking stud high low. I've got one of the dangers that I have playing stud high is that I'm forever thinking that I'm playing stud high low. So I'm forever thinking that I'm playing stud high low, so I have to really be careful that I'm not playing hands further low potential. So that's a real issue for me. I just busted out of the PSO in 5th place, so I did get some points and some cash out of that. Pretty happy about that. It will help in my standings. I sort of needed to win, but that's cool. I can win one of the other 3 that are coming, or 2 of the other 3 that are coming up today, and still take the monthly player of the series prize. That's what we're actually going on, so I'll be focusing on those off stream a lot today. It's all 4 today are HoldEm events, so probably not going to stream any of them. I'll be streaming other things while I'm doing the HoldEm, but yeah, we're gonna have some fun, I think. As I said, I don't really know how long I'm going to last in this stud game. It could be a short one because I don't really play stud all that well. You've probably seen that from some of the moves I've made so far today. But nonetheless, it's fun to play, and I like to talk things out while I'm doing it. I think that with the hearts here, I'm going to go. Didn't see many other hearts out on the deal, so I think I'm going to be involved here just to see a street or two and see if more hearts develop. The ace is also obviously a decent card. We paired a 7, which is not something I want to go super crazy on, but I think that it's definitely something that we're calling to see another street with that can easily develop, well, not easily, but it can develop into trips. We can hit an ace for 2 pair for a really good 2 pair like we just did on 5th Street. So it's obviously better if the ace pair is hidden and the 7 pair is showing, but I think that checking with a pair of aces on my board is just going to look way too fishy. So I think I'm going to get more value by betting there. Maybe. You never know. You never know, Josh. I think I'm going to bet that again because once again, I think that I'm not putting Zank here on a flush yet. He certainly might have drawn into a flush here. But I think I have to value my aces and 7s. Continue to value my aces and 7s. Now, again, I mean, I could easily be totally owning myself here. I'm never raising this, but I don't think I'm ever folding it either. So, oh, the spades were there early. I was kind of expecting him to have put in the raise on 6th, but I guess he thought he gets more value when he calls behind there and puts it in on the 7th. It seems a little unusual, um, but we'll say. And I mean, we were still drawing live at that point, right? So I'm fairly happy about that. When on 6th when we bet and he calls, we're still drawing live. So he's basically letting us get a cheap draw into our full house to kill his flush. So um, I'm not sure that just calling 6th and waiting until 7th to hit his raise with the flush there was the best move for. Um, I don't think I really tilted heads up, Josh. The the games have gone pretty standardly. I mean, I joke about the fact that I've had my foot on your throat in both games, and you came back and hustled me with it. But the truth is, both the times we played, it seems to me it's gone pretty standard. When we've got the chips in, it's been a perfectly reasonable spot to get the chips in. Yes, sometimes you've sucked out on me, but sometimes I've sucked out on you by the same token. I mean, I'm sure one of the times when I had you down to like 200 chips, I think in the first one, um, the way we got there was by me sucking out on you. I got it in with a lower pair than you and hit the set on the flop. I'm pretty sure. So that was in the Omaha high low, and there was no low hand on that, and it was one where it was kind of a suck out on my part. Um, so I don't I don't really think I ever tilted with anything we do. I'm pretty decent with the tilt as well. I mean, I do have some tilt issues depending on the day and the time and what's gone on, but I usually shake it off pretty well because I've got um, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. I've got 500,000 hands in my database now, so I can pretty easily go back and look at my history after bad beats and see. Well, no, it is a bad beat. I mean, when you get it in with aces against an underpair, you're winning those 81% of the time, just like you should be winning those 81% of the time. So just ignore the fact that this last time the the threes sucked out on you and hit a set. You just got to ignore that and move on. So I find I'm pretty even keeled about tilt and bad beats and things like that. So I don't think I was terribly tilted after we did our heads up. I do like the wheel possibilities of this. I'm going to see a street. It's probably not the best. Probably not the best move. I like the fact that I'm now developing into some open-ended possibilities with the 3-4-5, so I can hit a deuce to hit my straight, or 7 now makes me up and down. Basically, the 6 or the deuce gives me a straight at this point. Developing diamonds to a certain extent as well, although I'm not going to be thrilled about those. But we're definitely calling this, looking for a deuce or a 6. And I think we're probably doing the same afterwards, although I think maybe even throwing a bet in here is worth uh, doing at this point. And I think that we're going to get folds, not a huge amount of the time, but probably enough that this bet is worthwhile even when we don't hit our 7th, because it sets up another possibility to bet and potentially get folds, which we didn't, and I'm a bit surprised with just a pair of sixes there, honestly. But again, I don't play studs, so maybe I'm just silly with where I'm thinking I should get value and where I'm thinking that like there a pair of sixes might not think that he's very good. Um, but hard to say. mean, I'm definitely staying involved here. Um, Obviously, I think people have seen me losing a lot of hands, so they're happy to get in with potentially weaker holdings on me. I don't have to be nearly as strong as a pair of jacks here, so I'm just going to let other people do some betting, and I certainly am gonna call dude with the tens as he does this. Again, I could obviously uh, be done here very quickly, but it's the way it's gonna go. Yep, hit his two pair. Like I said, this could be a very short day. We're going to go with the 7-9 of diamonds as a potential straight flush possibility. But looks like we're pretty much done for this weekly round 2 day, sadly. I kind of thought that the stud high might go a little like this, although it seems to me that we've ended up on the bottom end of a lot of spots where we could just as easily have been on the top end of places where we have um, specifically thinking of the one against this guy where we were literally ahead all the way through to 6th Street, and we had the bigger pair, single pair all the way through to 6th Street. We both hit two pair on 7th Street, but his two pair on 7th Street gave him a bigger two pair than my two pair on 7th Street. It was like jacks and sixes versus tens and eights, I think, or something like that on me, whereas I had tens versus sixes all the way up to that point. So it's a bit frustrating when that sort of thing happens, but it's also part of poker, right? I mean, you gotta be able to deal with those, and it's not always going to go your way. And in fact, it's often not going to go your way, even when you're making the decisions that you need to be making. I'm not saying that all my decisions today were good, and if there's stud players out there who want to give me some tips and advice on specific hands that I played today that I could have played differently, um, and either not lost as many chips or won some chips or whatever, I'd certainly welcome that. But at the end of the day, I think that there's several spots where I lost pots that just as easily could have gone the other way. And this is another example. I mean, we were, um, that's another example. We're there with two pair on 7th. How did that happen? We had two pair. He has tens and deuces. Oh, we had nines and fives. Yeah, so I mean, he hits tens and deuces um, with his two pair. Where did he actually hit those two pair? Yeah, so he hit tens and deuces on the on 5th Street. Um, but again, it's spots like that where it's just tens and deuces over nines and fives. Those spots are easily going to go the other direction in a lot of times. So I'm not sure that there's really anything that was uh, wrong about the way that I played this. But yeah, I mean, we just have to go. Alrighty, so we'll be back in a couple of hours for the Badoogie weekly the weekly challenge Badoogie. Check the PokerStars lobby, tournament lobby for anything but Hold'em, and Reg in that fixed limit Badoogie, and we'll be having some fun later with some Badoogie. So I'll see you then. I'm out.